My golden boy brother framed me for stealing from the family business years later. He got arrested for illegal activities and our parents came crawling to me for help. This story is about my brother, who is 7 years older than me. He was always the golden child, the dream of any parent. But trust me, he was far from perfect. He was a liar and a manipulator who knew exactly how to get out of any situation, and my parents were so blinded by his charm and behavior that they never once questioned anything he did. I'm 36 now. I work as an office clerk in a law firm. It's not the highest paying job, but it's decent, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. Given everything I've been through, it's honestly a miracle I've made it this far. I come from a well-known family. My great-grandfather was one of the first in our city to go into pharmaceutical production. He had many children and grandchildren, so our family is huge. That pharmaceutical business is now split into several branches, managed by my father, uncles, and some cousins. My father inherited the medical supply warehouse, which distributes medicine to pharmacies and stores. My older brother, the one this story revolves around, became a doctor. And me, I was a nobody. I had no predetermined role in the family, and no medical degree, which everyone expected of me. In fact, I didn't have any prestigious degree at all, just a basic college diploma I barely earned. I'm not particularly proud of it. It took me 5 years to finish a 3-year program. Was I dumb? Maybe. Or maybe I was just a loser with zero self-esteem. I'm not making excuses, but the truth is my parents played a massive role in nearly ruining my life. As I said, my brother was the golden boy since childhood. He was the top student, won medals and trophies in academics and sports, and even helped out at the warehouse while still in school. He was the embodiment of intelligence and virtue. By the time I realized what competition meant, he had already set the bar so high that I never even tried to reach it. I gave up before I started. I knew I could never compare to him, and I didn't even try, but I didn't resent him. I don't remember feeling jealous or bitter. Our relationship as kids was normal, maybe even good. He was always busy with school, work, or friends, but growing up in the shadow of the golden child was brutal. I was constantly compared to him, mocked by family members, relatives, and even teachers. We went to the same school, and he had been the star student. Meanwhile, I was average at best. Unlike my brother, I wasn't athletic, so I didn't make the sports teams. So I became the family loser, the kid who wasn't good at anything. I needed a way to survive, and I found it in the company of bad kids. In high school, I got into all kinds of trouble. Thanks to my easy access to prescription drugs from the warehouse, I became quite popular in the wrong crowd. I stole meds from my father's warehouse and got caught twice. My parents punished me harshly, put me under house arrest. From then on, I was officially the black sheep. No one ever tried to understand what was going on in my head. They just punished me. If they had paid attention to my mental health, my life might have turned out differently. After high school, my parents forced me to apply to medical school. I refused. I knew school wasn't for me. I chose accounting instead, which infuriated them. They despised me for picking a profession they considered beneath our family. There were 11 doctors in our family, not to mention nurses and other medical professionals. Anything below a nurse's level was considered a disgrace. My father refused to pay for my education, so I had to take out a student loan. When I left for college, my father said he would only support me during my studies. After that, I was on my own. I said okay, but I wasn't one of those people who used rejection as motivation. I spiraled. I knew I'd never get anything from them. Even if I somehow managed to succeed, all the wealth and inheritance would go to my golden brother. So I figured, screw it, I'll just live my life to the fullest. In college, I got involved with even worse people. Got addicted to substances. Took 5 years to finish a 3-year degree. Didn't even get a part-time job to help pay for school. I was self-destructing. When I graduated, I had no idea what to do with my life. I lived in a fantasy for 6 more months until I was evicted from my dorm. I tried applying for office jobs, but I lacked both the skills and the attitude to pass any interviews. I ended up crashing on a friend's couch, then got kicked out and moved in with another buddy. Things got worse when the bank started demanding I repay my student loans. I didn't even have money for a burger. How could I pay off a loan? My dad had long since stopped helping me. I was on my own. I scraped by with random side jobs, but barely made enough for food and rent. I begged the bank to give me more time. But eventually, 2 large debt collectors showed up, grabbed me by the collar, and gave me 15 days to pay up. I panicked. I had nowhere to run. I called my mum, begging for help. She hung up and said I deserved this. Desperate, I turned to the only person I still had a tiny bit of hope in, my brother. By then, he was a successful doctor and owned his own clinic. He said he needed time to think. I told him how urgent my situation was and promised to pay him back as soon as I could. I knew they all saw me as a hopeless loser, someone who couldn't be trusted with money. If my brother refused to help, I would have understood if he refused, but what he did was beyond imagination. A week later, my brother called and told me he'd found the money. He asked for my bank details. Without thinking twice, I gave him my account number, PIN, and password. Yeah, stupid of me, or maybe just desperate. The next day, I got a message that a large sum had been deposited into my account, 4 times more than my loan amount. I was shocked and called my brother to ask why he'd sent so much. He said he had sold some asset and all the money had gone into my account. He told me to keep what I needed and said he'd transfer the rest back, but for that, he needed full access to my online banking. Without hesitation, I gave it to him. He really did transfer out the excess and left exactly the amount I needed to pay off the debt. I paid it off and felt like a huge weight had been lifted, but my relief didn't last long. About an hour later, my dad called. He was screaming like a maniac, demanding that I get on the next bus home. He accused me of stealing money from the family business. I had no idea what he was talking about. It didn't even cross my mind that my brother had anything to do with it. I assumed it was some crazy misunderstanding until I got home and saw the chaos with my own eyes. My father greeted me with a slap in the face. What followed was a barrage of insults and psychological abuse. They accused me of stealing money from the family business to pay off my personal debt. I was in shock. They knew I'd been trying my best to pay that loan. Apparently, my father had noticed suspicious activity on the business account and contacted the bank. They told him the money had been transferred to my account. My dad confronted my brother, who immediately made up a story that I had stolen the money. He even showed my bank statement as evidence. I was speechless as I watched him calmly and methodically spin a complete lie. The whole extended family was there, and I saw the disgust in their eyes. I muttered, "Bro, you're the one who transferred the money to my account." He looked at me like I was insane and denied everything with a straight face. I called the bank, hoping they could prove my side, but they told me the money from my account had gone to a private anonymous account with no identifiable owner. But the money from Dad's account had definitely been sent to mine. It became clear. My brother transferred the money from Dad's business account to my personal account, then moved it to his own anonymous account, leaving no trace. He set me up to take the fall. I pulled him aside and demanded that he come clean. But he was a master manipulator and denied everything. My parents backed him, of course. He was the golden child. Some of the relatives doubted I could have done it, but they had no evidence to defend me either. They forced me to return the money, which I had no idea how to do. My father was ready to call the police and press charges, but my brother stopped him, saying it would damage the family's reputation. Clever, huh? For a second, I thought it might be guilt, but no, it was strategy. If the cops got involved, the truth might come out. So he framed it as if he were doing me a favor, sparing me jail time. Then he demanded I disappear from their lives forever. Even though I was innocent, I felt like a criminal. I couldn't look anyone in the eye. I just turned and ran. I still remember that night, running blindly through the streets, crying uncontrollably, barely able to see. Eventually, I collapsed on a sidewalk and sobbed like a child. I wandered around for almost an hour before getting on a bus and returning to the filthy apartment I rented. That night, I swore I'd never go back to my family again and that I would take my life into my own hands. It took me 8 years to build a decent life. It wasn't easy, but anger and bitterness pushed me forward. I wanted revenge. I wanted to expose my brother. I wanted to bring him down. But I also understood I had no power. They had all the money, influence, and connections. I had nothing, not even money for therapy. I nearly buried that part of my life. Until a few days ago, something happened that stirred it all back up. My brother's wife showed up at my work. No warning. At first, I didn't even recognize her. I had blocked all my relatives on social media, but somehow she found me. She came to ask for help. She wanted me to help save my brother from prison because he was being investigated for selling illegal pharmaceuticals. I asked if she knew the history between me and her husband. She nodded. Then she admitted that my brother had used those stolen funds to launch an underground business producing and selling banned substances. Someone had snitched. He managed to shut down the operation months ago before the cops got serious, but now the investigation had finally reached him. His arrest, she said, was only a matter of time. I asked her why she came to me of all people. They had a massive family, any of whom could help. She said that the police had closed all of the father's warehouses and were conducting an investigation into him. They suspected he was in collusion with my brother. All their accounts were frozen. The relatives kept their distance because no one wanted to get involved in that mess or be implicated. But why me? Because I work at a law firm and could ask a lawyer to take on my brother's case. Seriously? They thought I would help them after what he did to me, framed me, humiliated me, and kicked me out of the family? She begged me, pleading, for the sake of her children. I coldly replied that my family was dead to me and politely asked her to leave. The next day, my mother called. She begged me to help, saying families should support one another. I burst out laughing hysterically at her lecture. I asked, where was your support all these years when you treated me like trash? She replied, let's forget the past. Now is the time to stick together. What a hypocrite. I hung up and told her not to call me again. But an hour later, she called again and left a voicemail. Don't be a child. Act like an adult. So now I'm the child? I'm not going to help them. But I'll admit it didn't bring me joy to see them suffer. I spent months dreaming of revenge for my humiliation, but now that karma had caught up with them, I felt no satisfaction. Update 1. The reaction to my post blew my mind. You were right, my brother and parents got what they deserved. Call me the devil, but I decided to use this moment to get revenge for my humiliation. So when my mum called again asking for help, I said I'd come home to discuss the situation. When I arrived, suddenly everyone was loving and caring. I made it clear I wasn't there for small talk. My brother, his wife, and kids had moved in with our parents since his property was confiscated pending the investigation. Everyone was begging me for help. My brother cried and tried to hug me. I pulled away, signaling for him to stay back. I said, years ago, when I begged for help, no one came. I was called a thief and thrown out. My brother, tears in his eyes, said he regretted what he did. I replied, your crocodile tears mean nothing. I was judged in front of the whole family. If you want to apologize, do it in front of them too. My mum yelled, accusing me of making a scene during a hard time. I said, that's not my problem. If you want my help, do it properly. In desperation, they called all the relatives, begging them to come. Most ignored the call. Some refused to avoid legal trouble. Eventually, my mum had to tell them it was about me. My brother wanted to confess. A few uncles and aunts came, some out of concern, others with popcorn for the drama. My brother confessed in front of everyone that he stole money from the family business to start an illegal operation and used me as a scapegoat. I asked, why the hell would you do that too? Your own brother? He said our father would never have approved his business idea, and since I was in a vulnerable position, he decided to use me. With that money, he launched his production, opened a clinic, and bought a house all before turning 30. Everyone admired his hard work, but in reality, it was all based on deceit. One uncle, who had treated me a bit kinder as a child, said, I always knew you weren't the thief. He apologized for not supporting me back then and said he was proud I'd managed to rise from the bottom. That's how it is. Everyone wants to be around when you're successful. My father immediately said, we did what you asked. Now you need to help us out of this. I said I could ask someone at my firm to take the case, but it wouldn't be free. My father exploded, saying, if we had money, we'd hire another lawyer. Why do we even need to ask you? I replied, well, good luck then. What did they expect? That I'd also pay the lawyer to get out of prison, the person who ruined my life. My father got angry and said, Linda, my mum, don't worry. I'll figure something out. We've already wasted too much time hoping for help from this worthless piece of trash. I answered, at least I'm not a criminal. Despite their golden son betraying them, they still clung to him. I warned them, either let him go or go down with him. Soon after, I left. My work was done. My revenge complete. Maybe I could've helped my parents get out of this mess, but when I saw they still protected my brother, something turned inside me. They disowned me and kicked me out for the same crime, but when it was him suddenly, it was different. That's their double standard. Let them live with it. Update 2: after that family meeting, I started getting calls from cousins, aunts, and uncles apologizing for not supporting me back then. I told them it didn't matter anymore. When I needed support the most, no one stood by me. From them, I found out my brother had been arrested a month ago for producing and selling illegal substances. He was sentenced to 8 years, but his lawyer was trying to reduce the term. My father wasn't arrested since his involvement couldn't be proven. Life got much harder for them. First, the warehouse was seized for over half a year, which shut down their business completely. Second, government agencies started thoroughly investigating my father with surprise inspections and increased monitoring, leading to constant stress and work issues. Legal trouble is always a blow to one's reputation, especially for business people. Nobody wants to deal with a company involved in a criminal scandal. He lost regular clients and suppliers. Some relatives said my parents aged 10 years in the last 6 months. Now they regret blindly trusting their golden boy. But interestingly, they still don't mention me or feel the slightest remorse for how they treated me. I simply said, "It's okay. I don't need them anymore." An uncle, who was closest to my dad, said my parents were now considering selling everything and moving to a more secluded place or even a village where no one knows them. They're ashamed of the judgmental looks from neighbors and relatives. My brother's wife moved in with her parents. She had nowhere else to go after his arrest. I can't say I feel satisfaction or that I'm overjoyed by any of this, but I am glad the truth came out and justice was served. That's all for now. Thank you for listening to this story till the end. Don't forget to follow our channel and take care.